that a troop buildup hinged on President Biden phoning European leaders from the Situation Room as the crisis in Ukraine escalates.
While we can't get into the mind of President Putin, we are seeing the preparations that they're making at the border.
Biden consulting the leaders of Germany, Italy, France, the United Kingdom, Poland, NATO, and the European Commission as he debates sending thousands more U.S. troops to Eastern Europe.
What we're telling these units to do is to be ready to go on a shorter timeline than what they were before. We are not deploying them now. We are not saying diplomacy is dead.
Up to 8,500 U.S. troops now on high alert. If Biden increases troop presence that close to Russia's doorstep, it would amount to a major shift in his approach. After last week, he said a troop buildup hinged on an invasion.
And, we're going to fortify our NATO allies. I told him on the eastern flank, if in fact he does invade.
Overnight, the State Department ordering family members of staff to leave the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine and encouraging Americans not to travel there, warning Russian military action would severely impact the embassy's ability to provide consular services, including assistance to U.S. citizens departing Ukraine. Biden considering the new moves after the British government accused Russia of plotting to install a pro-Russian leader in Ukraine.
This is very much part of the Russian toolkit. It runs the gamut from a large conventional incursion or invasion of Ukraine to these kind of destabilizing activities in an attempt to topple the government.
Republicans, including the top GOP lawmaker on the Foreign Affairs Committee, warning that President Putin isn't taking the U.S. seriously.
I think this has been a passive deterrence, right? I mean, I don't see Putin changing his course of action. It's getting very aggressive. The noose is tightening around Ukraine.
All right, Shalom. Let's start off saying Ka Halayim La Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Harikakwadash, my mop. Double honors to the elder apostles, a great millstone, and my elder Heroin as well. Salutations to the Akim that are pushing his truth and sincerity and truth. And peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. This is 2 Ezra chapter 9, verse 1, and it says, He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself. When thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when you shall see when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is made manifest. All right. So I'm going to keep going real quick. It says, even so, the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works, and the endings and effects and signs. All right. And everyone that shall be saved and shall escape and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith wherein you have believed. All right. So, yeah. So basically I went into that to go into this article that I'm about to read. And it says U.S. puts 8,500 troops on heightened alert amid Russia tensions. All right. And so this is all according to prophecy of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Scripture says, speak thou the words of prophecy in the ears of my people. Matter of fact, let me get that. All right. Let me get 2 Ezra 15. All right, 2 Ezra 15 and 1, it says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. All right, so these are the plain beginnings and signs and wonders, prophecies that, that the men of the Lord are out there on the highways and byways speaking. So when we see, like the elder made a great point, Esau calls them current events and we call them prophecies, right? Because we speak of those things before they actually happen. All right, it's all done through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. All right, so this article says U.S. puts 8,500 troops on heightened alert amid Russia tensions. It says at President Biden's direction, the Pentagon is putting about 8,500 U.S.-based troops on heightened alert for potential deployment to Europe amid rising fears of a possible Russian military move on Ukraine. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby said Monday no final decision has been made on deployments, which he said would happen only if NATO alliances decides to activate a rapid response force or if other situations develop in connection with tensions over Russia's military buildup along Ukraine's border. All right, so that's the spirit of the Medes being risen up by Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. All right, and basically this is Ezekiel 38 being the prophecy of Ezekiel 38, and also Isaiah 13 is, and on and on, so on, so forth and so forth. There's so many different scriptures that we could get pertaining to these what they call current events that are occurring right now as we speak, because we spoke about Russia being the bear, being enough to take down America, being who can make war with the beast. All right, Russia, and the beast being NATO. All right, so who can make war with NATO and America? Russia. And that word bear just means just enough. And Russia is enough to take down this system, man, take down America, man. All right. So it says, what this is about is reassurance to our NATO allies, Kirby said, adding that no troops are intended for deployment to Ukraine itself. Kirby said Defense Secretary Lloyd J. Austin III recommended to Biden that up to 8,500 troops be ordered to prepare for potential deployment to Europe in light of sight that Russian President Vladimir Putin is not de-escalating his military pressure on Ukraine. Kirby said he was not prepared to identify the United States U.S.-based units because they are still being notified. We've always said we would reinforce our allies on the eastern flank, and those conversations and discussions have certainly been part of what our national security officials have been discussing with the counterparts now for several weeks. And White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, whatever that is, said later Monday Biden was told to hold a video call with several European leaders on the Russian military buildup and potential responses to an invasion, the White House said. The Pentagon moves become as tensions have soared between Russia and the West over concerns that Moscow is planning to invade Ukraine, with NATO outlining potential troops and ships deployments, Britain saying it would withdraw some diplomats from the Kyiv, and Ireland denouncing upcoming Russian war games off its coast. Prior to the U.S. announcement, the Western Alliance's statement summed up moves already described by member countries, but restating them under the NATO banner appeared aimed at showing resolve. The West is ramping up its rhetoric in the information war that has accompanied the Ukrainian standoff. Russia has massed an estimated 100,000 troops near Ukraine's border, demanding that NATO promise it will never allow Ukraine to join in that other actions such as stationing alliance troops in former Soviet bloc countries be curated. Some of these, like any pledge to permanently bar Ukraine, are non-starters for NATO, creating a deadlock that many fear can only end in war. And this is ultimately what this is going to, ultimately, this is what it's going to lead down to, man, because it's been spoken of. Just like how it says in 2nd Ezra chapter 9, it says just how everything has a plain beginning and ending when the end is made manifest, right? So the end is being spoken of before it actually happens through the prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai that have the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai placed on them, because the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy. As a matter of fact, I'll get that real quick. Is it, let me see. Let me see. Revelations. All right, Revelations 19:10, it says, "And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushai. Worship Yahweh, for the testimony of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy." That's why the other scripture that I brought out, 2nd Ezra 15:1, "Speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy." And that's what we're speaking. All right. That's what we're speaking. The prophecy, warning the people of what's to come, man. All right. So back in this article a little bit, it says, it says the Pentagon's move comes as tensions have soared between Russia and the West over concerns that Moscow is planning to invade Ukraine, with NATO outlining potential troops and ship deployments, Britain saying that they would withdraw. All right, I read that part. All right, prior to the U.S. announcement, the Western Alliance statement summed up moves already described by member countries, but restating that under the NATO banner appeared aimed at showing resolve. The West is ramping up its rhetoric in the information war that has accompanied the Ukraine standoff. All right, Russia has massed an estimate 100,000 troops near Ukraine's border, demanding that NATO promise it will never allow Ukraine to join in the other actions such as stationing alliance troops in former Soviet bloc countries be correlated. Some of these, like any pledge to permanently bar Ukraine, are non-starters for NATO, creating a deadlock that many fear could only end in war. Russia denies its planning an invasion and says the Western accusations are merely a cover for NATO's own plan of provocation, right? So what Russia is barely saying, they're saying like, listen, we're lining all these troops up just to protect ourselves from what NATO is planning to do. We're not the aggressor. NATO is the aggressor. And if you think about it, they really are, because if you look at a map of all the NATO, if a map of Russia and in that area, and all the NATO countries and NATO military bases that are in that, they're surrounding Russia, and Ukraine is the last ditch effort to totally surround Russia, and that's what Putin is trying to stop. All right, trying to stop America and NATO from totally entering into their back door. But you know how the West tries to always paint the narrative as if they're the diplomats and they're trying to spread democracy, and every place else is oppressing the people or bringing forth some sort of communism and oppressing the people, when actually it's America that's doing these things, man. All right. It says Russia denies it is planning an invasion. It says the Western accusations are merely a cover for NATO's own plan of provocation. Recent days have seen high-stake diplomacy that failed to reach any breakthrough and maneuvering on both sides. All right, so they sat down for like a couple times and tried to come up with some sort of negotiation, all for nothing, because neither side is going to budge at all. All right, so it's ultimately going to end up in war. It said NATO said on Monday it is bolstering its deterrence in the Baltic Sea region. Denmark is sending a frigate and deploying F-16 warplanes to Lithuania. Spain is sending 4 fighter jets to Bulgaria and 3 ships to the Black Sea. to join NATO naval forces, and France stands ready to send troops to Romania. The Netherlands also plan to send F-35 fighter aircraft to Bulgaria from April. It said NATO will take all necessary measures to protect and defend all allies. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said, "We will always respond to any deteriorations of our security environment, including through strengthening our collective defenses." In Moscow, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said it was NATO and the U.S. who were behind the escalating tensions, not Russia. And I can believe that because just like the whole thing with Saddam Hussein, they said he was giving out weapons that he shouldn't be giving out, but those weapons that he got them from the United States because the United States asked him to build a proxy army, a militia to go against to fight these proxy wars that America and NATO were fighting over there. So then for them to turn around and tell the whole world that he's using it on his people, and then just have this guy executed for no reason, you know. So that's the type of narrative that that's potentially probably being painted right now. You know, if you let America tell the story, they're always right. They're always the good guy. All right. It says, all this is happening not because of what Russia are doing. This is happening because of what NATO, the U.S. are doing. Peskov told reporters. The NATO announcement came as European Union foreign ministers sought to put on a fresh display of unity in support of Ukraine and paper over concerns about division on the best way to confront any Russian aggression. In a statement, the minister said the EU has stepped up sanctions preparations, and they warned that any further military aggression by Russia against Ukraine will have massive consequences and severe cost. All right, so now the European Union, which is the dragon, the financiers of this whole system, the ones that control the international banks, controlling the money, now they're trying to they're trying to make it impossible for Russia to go to war by hitting them with sanctions, trying to crush their economy to where they won't be able to afford to fight back and retaliate. So now this is an economical struggle going on between the two sides, and which is ultimately going to lead to like how this is how when World War II came about, how America wanted to enter into World War II to try to, because everybody knew that the end of whoever's going to be the winner of World War II was going to be the dominant force or powerhouse over the world power. So America wasn't even thought about at the time. So what they did is they set heavy sanctions on Japan, which forced Japan to enter into the war, which caused Pearl Harbor. All right, so now America had the green light to go into the war, and they had the financial backing from Europe. So the outcome of that was, you know, at the end of all tell all, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, America became the world superpower, and then we entered into the nuclear age. Thus, we went over in Revelation chapter 9 last week and this past Saturday at camp. So now we have all these articles coming out talking about the escalation of tensions on the Ukrainian border, and this has been going on since like 2014. But it recently just started escalating real fast, and it's showing potential of being a all out hot war, and we see that. We know what's going to end up happening. No matter how much they try to frank the funk and say, "Oh, we're negotiating this, we're negotiating that," no, it's going to be an all out war. It says, back to the article, it says, separately, the European Union almost committed to increase financial support for beleaguered Ukraine, vowing to push through a special package of 1.2 billion euros $1.4 billion in loans and grants as soon as possible. United States Secretary of State Anthony J. Blinken held talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Friday and said the U.S. would give Russia written responses to Moscow's proposal this week, offering some hope that any invasion could be delayed for at least a few more days. The West is nervously watching Russian troops' movements and war games in Belarus for any signs of an invasion. Russia has already invaded Ukraine once, annexing the Crimea Peninsula in 2014. Right, I just spoke about that. This is how this all started, but then they painted the narrative that they didn't say that Russia annexed Crimea, a Crimean Peninsula. They said that Russia just outright invaded and started slaughtering the people of Ukraine, and not mentioning that part that they annexed was once a part of the Soviet Union. And that's all they're trying to do, get back, is regain the once Soviet Union that fell in the late 80s, early 90s. Okay. It says it also supported pro-Russian Ukrainian separatists fighting the Kyiv government in the country's eastern region, known as Donbas. About 14,000 people have been killed in the conflict. Asked whether the EU would allow a U.S. move and order the families of European embassy personnel in Ukraine to leave, EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said, "We are not going to do the same thing." Britain said it is withdrawing some diplomats and dependents from its Kyiv embassy. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said an invasion was not inevitable, but the intelligence is pretty gloomy. He added that, "I think that sense can still prevail." All right. Looks like you. All right, it said Ukraine Foreign Ministry spokesman Oleg Nikolenko said the United States decision was a premature step and a sign of excessive caution. He said Russia is showing panic among Ukrainians and foreigners in order to destabilize Ukraine. Germany has issued no similar order, with Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock stressing that we must not contribute to unsettling the situation further. So everybody's trying to move slowly and lightly, but the Lord's going to speed things up, man. While they're trying to move and take all precautionary measures, the Lord's going to make you go down, man. Lord is mustering up the host of the battle. Let me get that real quick. All right. This is Isaiah 13:4. It says, "The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of the nations gathered together. The Lord of the hosts mustereth the hosts of the battle." And this is what you're seeing with the escalation of things going on in the Middle East and the escalation of things that are going on within Ukraine. So going back to the beginning, scripture that I brought out from the beginning is 2 Ezra chapter 9:1. It says, "He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently within itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made." And this is what we're witnessing right now. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying and served its purpose. With that, I'd like to say, Kal Halayim La Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Harikah Kwadash Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, and my elder Herwan as well. Salutation to the Akim that are pushing the truth and sincerity and truth. And peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai. Shalom.